The crystal wine glass slipped from Sofia Bellini's trembling hands and shattered across the polished marble floor. The sound echoed through the grand ballroom. Every conversation stopped. More than 100 wealthy guests turned toward the source of the accident, and before Sofia could kneel to gather the broken glass, a sharp voice cut through the silence.
"You've done it again," Ethan Romano barked. "Can you do anything right?" Sofia immediately lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll clean it right away." She slowly bent down, her full curvy figure making the movement difficult, but she ignored the ache in her knees. Her hands reached for the sharp pieces of glass. Then Ethan kicked one of the shards across the floor. "No," he sneered loudly. "Pick up every single piece. You made the mess." A few guests chuckled. Others looked away. Sofia said nothing. She simply nodded. "Yes, sir." As she reached for another shard, Ethan laughed. "You know what's funny?" Nobody answered. He looked around the ballroom. If she spent half as much time exercising as she spends eating, maybe she'd stop breaking things. Laughter exploded around the room. Some covered their mouths. Others laughed openly. Sofia froze. Her cheeks burned. She had heard every insult imaginable during her 12 years working for the Romano family. But somehow, hearing dozens of strangers laugh at her appearance hurt more than the words themselves. A woman whispered, just loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "She's enormous." Another guest smirked. "I've never seen a maid that size." Sofia kept picking up the broken glass. She refused to let them see her cry. Then, the massive wooden doors at the entrance swung open. Every head turned. 3 men dressed in black suits entered first. Then another 3. Behind them walked a towering man whose arms, neck, and hands were covered in intricate Italian tattoos stretching beneath the sleeves of his tailored black suit. His expression never changed. His icy eyes scanned the room once. Nobody dared speak. Even Ethan Romano stopped smiling. The man's reputation had reached every powerful family in Italy. Don Alessandro Moretti, the most feared mafia boss in northern Italy. The room became so quiet that even breathing sounded loud. Richard Romano hurried forward, with both hands extended. "Don Alessandro, what an honor. Welcome to my home." The tattooed mafia boss didn't even look at him. He kept walking, past the politicians, past the celebrities, past the business executives, straight toward the plus-size maid still kneeling on the floor. Every guest stared in disbelief. Sofia looked up, confused. She had never met the man before, or at least, she didn't think she had. The tattooed giant stopped directly in front of her. Without saying a single word, he slowly reached down, took her trembling hand, and kissed it. The ballroom erupted into shocked gasps. If that image alone made your jaw drop, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, because what happened next changed every life inside that mansion forever. 24 hours earlier, long before the richest people in Milan filled the Romano mansion with expensive suits and fake smiles, Sofia Bellini was already awake. The clock read 4:45 in the morning. She quietly tied back her dark hair, adjusted her simple uniform, and smiled at herself in the mirror. "You've got this, Sofia," she whispered. At 43 years old, Sofia knew exactly who she was. She was proudly Italian. She had been born and raised in a small town outside Florence. She was a very big, plus-size woman, with soft features, broad hips, a curvy figure, and a warm smile that somehow survived years of insults. She never pretended to be someone else. She never apologized for taking up space. What hurt her wasn't her size. It was the cruelty of people who believed it gave them permission to treat her like she mattered less. She walked downstairs before sunrise and immediately started preparing breakfast. Fresh coffee, pastries, fruit, eggs, Everything had to be perfect. Not because anyone appreciated it, because she appreciated doing good work. While she arranged the dining table, another employee entered the kitchen. Marco, the elderly chef. He smiled. "Buongiorno, Sofia." She smiled back. "Good morning, Marco. You started early again." "I always do." Marco sighed. "You work harder than everyone in this house." Sofia laughed softly. "I work because I have two hands. Complaining never cleaned a kitchen." Marco shook his head. "I wish they appreciated you." "They don't have to." "They should." Before Sofia could answer, loud footsteps echoed through the hallway. Victoria Romano entered wearing an expensive silk robe. Without saying good morning, she inspected the table. "What is this?" Sofia blinked. "Breakfast, ma'am." "I can see that." Victoria frowned. "The fruit isn't sliced evenly." "I'm sorry." "And those flowers?" She pointed toward the centerpiece. "They're facing the wrong direction." "I'm sorry." "You say sorry far too much." Sofia nodded quietly. "I'll fix it." Victoria looked her up and down. "You know, Sofia." "Yes, ma'am." "I've always wondered something." Sofia waited. "How does someone become your size?" The question wasn't curiosity, it was mockery. Victoria continued. "You must spend a fortune on food." Sofia forced a polite smile. "I actually don't eat very much." Victoria laughed. "Oh, please." Marco clenched his fists. "Mrs. Romano, breakfast is ready." "I wasn't talking to you." She turned back toward Sofia. "And try not to breathe so heavily around the guests tonight." Sofia simply answered, "Yes, ma'am." Victoria walked away. Marco slammed a pan onto the counter. "I can't listen to that woman anymore." Sofia gently placed a hand on his arm. "It's all right." "No, it isn't. I'm used to it." "That doesn't make it right." Sofia smiled sadly. "My mother always said that people reveal themselves by how they treat those who can't answer back." Marco looked at her. "And what do you reveal?" "I try to reveal kindness." Hours passed. The mansion slowly filled with activity. Florists arrived. Security teams checked every entrance. Luxury cars delivered decorations worth more than Sofia earned in an entire year. Around noon, 16-year-old Isabella Romano entered the kitchen carrying a tray. Unlike the rest of her family, she smiled every time she saw Sofia. "Hi, Sofia." "Hello, Bella. I made coffee." "You made coffee?" "I tried." Sofia laughed. "I'm brave enough to taste it." Isabella grinned. They both took a sip. Sofia immediately made a funny face. "Oh!" Isabella burst into laughter. "It's terrible, isn't it? It's memorable. I'm still learning. You'll get there." Isabella looked down. "Mom yelled at you again." "It's all right." "No, it really is." "It isn't." Isabella lowered her voice. "I hate how they treat you." Sofia gently touched the young woman's shoulder. "Don't let someone else's bitterness become yours. But they humiliate you." "I know. Doesn't it hurt?" Sofia paused before answering. "Every single time." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "Then why do you stay?" Sofia looked toward the window. "Because leaving without hope means the cruel people win." Before Isabella could respond, Ethan Romano stormed into the kitchen. "There you are." His voice was sharp. "Why are you hiding in here?" "I was helping with coffee," Isabella answered. Ethan rolled his eyes before turning toward Sofia. "And what are you doing, besides standing around?" "I've finished preparing lunch." "Then clean the ballroom." "I already did." "Do it again." "Yes, sir." As Sofia walked past him, Ethan deliberately stepped into her path. She accidentally brushed against his shoulder. He immediately looked down with exaggerated disgust. "Seriously?" "I'm sorry. You nearly knocked me over." "I didn't mean to." He smirked. "Maybe hallways just aren't designed for people your size." Isabella snapped. "Stop it." Ethan laughed. "What? She's done nothing to you." I told a joke. It wasn't funny. It was to everyone else.
Sofia quietly interrupted before the argument could grow. It's all right. No, it isn't, Isabella insisted. Sofia smiled gently. It will be. Neither sibling realized that before the day was over, every cruel word spoken inside that mansion would return with consequences none of them could have imagined. The afternoon disappeared in a blur of preparations. Staff hurried through the Romano mansion carrying silver trays, floral arrangements, crystal glasses, and expensive decorations. Sofia Bellini moved from room to room without stopping. She checked every table twice, polished every glass, and made sure every guest would feel welcomed, even though she knew many of them would never notice the person who had worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Marco caught up with her near the ballroom. Sofia, she turned. Yes, you haven't eaten. I'm fine. He held out a small plate. I know that look. You're exhausted. She smiled. I'll eat later. You always say that. And I always survive. Marco sighed. Please. She finally accepted the plate. Thank you. Before she could take a second bite, Victoria Romano appeared again. There you are. Sofia immediately put the plate down. Yes, ma'am? What exactly are you doing? I don't pay you to stand around eating. Marco stepped forward. Mrs. Romano, I asked her to. I wasn't talking to you. Victoria looked directly at Sofia. The guests will begin arriving in less than an hour. If I see one fingerprint on a single glass, you'll be cleaning this mansion all night. I'm sorry. And another thing. Victoria folded her arms. I've decided you'll use the service entrance tonight. Sofia looked confused. I always greet guests at the front door. Not tonight. May I ask why? Victoria answered without hesitation. I don't want the first thing our guests see to be. She glanced at Sofia from head to toe before finishing with a cold smile. A distraction. The words landed harder than any slap. Marco clenched his jaw. Sofia isn't a distraction. Victoria laughed. Really? She looked toward the mirror hanging in the hallway. Take one look and tell me she represents elegance. Sofia lowered her eyes. I understand. Victoria nodded. I'm glad. As she walked away, Marco whispered, one day she'll regret speaking to you like that. Sofia gave him a faint smile. Maybe, maybe not. But I won't become like her while I wait. An hour later, luxury cars began filling the circular driveway. One after another. Politicians, fashion designers, television personalities, judges, business executives. Every guest arrived dressed in clothes that cost more than Sofia earned in several months. She welcomed each person with the same respectful smile. Good evening. Welcome. Please enjoy your evening. Most ignored her completely. Some nodded politely. Others looked at her with open judgment. One elegant woman whispered to her husband, I didn't expect the household staff to look like that. Her husband smirked. I suppose finding uniforms in her size is difficult. They laughed as they walked away. Sofia heard every word. She kept smiling, not because she wasn't hurt, because she refused to give strangers the satisfaction of seeing her pain. As the ballroom filled with music and conversation, Ethan Romano moved confidently among the guests, enjoying every compliment directed at his family's wealth. Then he spotted Sofia arranging champagne glasses. A mischievous smile spread across his face. He walked over carrying a nearly full glass of red wine. Ladies and gentlemen, he called loudly. Several nearby guests turned toward him. I think our hard-working maid deserves a round of applause. People looked confused. Sofia froze. Ethan. He ignored her. She's been with us for 12 years. A few guests politely clapped. Then Ethan suddenly stumbled forward. The red wine splashed directly onto his white jacket. He stared at the stain for 2 seconds before pointing at Sofia. You did this. The room became quiet. Sofia blinked. I never touched you. You bumped into me. I wasn't even moving. You called me a liar? No. Then admit it. She looked around. Dozens of eyes stared back at her. I don't know what happened. Ethan raised his voice. You've ruined a custom-made jacket worth 10,000 euros. Richard Romano approached. What happened? Ethan answered first. She wasn't paying attention. Richard turned toward Sofia. Is that true? She swallowed. I don't believe so, sir. You don't believe so. I was standing still. Ethan laughed mockingly. So now my family servant is accusing me of making things up. A businessman shook his head. These employees never take responsibility. Another guest added, it's impossible to find good help these days. The comments spread through the crowd like wildfire. Sofia's breathing became heavier. She wasn't afraid of losing her job. She was afraid no one would listen. Isabella suddenly stepped forward. That's not what happened. Every head turned. Richard frowned. Isabella, I saw everything. Ethan glared at his sister. Stay out of this. No. She faced their father. Ethan spilled the wine himself. The ballroom fell silent. Richard looked from one child to the other. Ethan? His son shrugged. She's mistaken. I'm not. You always defend the staff. Because they're human beings. Ethan rolled his eyes dramatically. Oh, here we go. You embarrassed Sofia on purpose. I made a joke. You humiliated her. I entertained the guests. You lied. Before the argument could continue, Victoria stepped between them. Enough! She looked at Isabella. Go upstairs. I'm telling the truth. I said upstairs. Isabella looked at Sofia with apologetic eyes before leaving. Sofia quietly whispered, Thank you. Ethan leaned closer so only Sofia could hear. You should have kept her quiet. I never asked her to speak. You make everyone feel sorry for you. I don't. You do. His smile returned. But don't worry. I'm just getting started. A chill ran down Sofia's spine. She wanted the night to end. Instead, it became worse. Dinner was served. Music filled the ballroom. Conversations grew louder. Sofia and the other staff moved quickly between tables. As she carried a silver tray stacked with desserts, Ethan deliberately stepped backward into her path. The tray tilted. 3 desserts slid onto the floor. The room gasped. Ethan threw both hands into the air. There she goes again. More laughter. One guest shook his head. I've never seen anyone so clumsy. Another added, maybe she can't even see her own feet. Sofia bent down immediately. I'm so sorry. Ethan looked at the guests. You know what? He pointed directly at Sofia. I've finally figured it out. Nobody spoke. Maybe she's been secretly eating the desserts before serving them. The ballroom erupted with laughter. Someone clapped. Another guest whistled. The sound echoed through the room like knives. Marco could no longer stay silent. Enough! Every head turned toward the elderly chef. She has worked harder today than anyone standing in this room. Ethan laughed. Careful, Marco. I'm serious. So am I. Marco stepped closer. You should be ashamed. Ethan's smile disappeared. You forget who signs your paycheck. I remember. Then remember your place. Marco looked ready to answer, but Sofia gently touched his arm. Please. No. Please. She smiled sadly. It's all right. Marco shook his head. No, Sofia. His voice cracked. It isn't. Sofia took a deep breath before facing the crowd herself. I'm sorry for the accident. A woman folded her arms. That's all you have to say? Sofia nodded. Yes. Ethan laughed louder than before. See? She doesn't even defend herself. Richard finally spoke. Sofia. Yes, sir. I think it would be best if you stayed out of the ballroom for the rest of the evening. Her heart sank. I understand. You'll finish cleaning after everyone leaves. Yes, sir. She slowly turned toward the service hallway. Her vision blurred. For the first time in years, she wondered if kindness was enough. As she disappeared behind the kitchen doors, Isabella rushed after her. She found Sofia quietly wiping tears from her cheeks. "I'm so sorry." Sofia quickly forced a smile. "You have nothing to apologize for. I should have done more." "You were brave." "I wasn't brave enough. You told the truth. But nobody cared." Sofia looked into the young woman's eyes. "Listen to me." "I'm listening." "Never stop telling the truth simply because people refuse to hear it." Isabella hugged her tightly. "You deserve so much better." Sofia hugged her back. "One day, sweetheart, people always reveal who they truly are." At that exact moment, outside the Romano mansion, the distant sound of powerful engines rolled through the night. One black SUV entered the gates, then another, then another. Security guards exchanged nervous glances. The musicians stopped playing. Guests drifted toward the windows. A whisper spread through the mansion. "He's here. No, it can't be." Richard Romano's confident smile vanished. Even Ethan suddenly looked uneasy. One by one, 6 black SUVs stopped in front of the mansion. The doors opened in perfect unison. Men in tailored black suits stepped out first, scanning every corner with disciplined precision. Then the final vehicle door opened. A tall Italian man slowly emerged. Dark tailored suit, broad shoulders, full-body tattoos stretched across his neck, hands and wrists, disappearing beneath perfectly pressed sleeves. His cold expression never changed. Don Alessandro Moretti had arrived, and not a single person inside the Romano mansion knew that he hadn't come for the wealthy family at all. The mansion fell completely silent. Not a single guest reached for another drink. Not a single waiter moved. Every eye followed Don Alessandro Moretti as he stepped through the entrance. His tailored black suit fit perfectly, but it could not hide the elaborate Italian tattoos covering his hands, neck, and wrists. They were reminders of a violent past he no longer celebrated. The stories about him had traveled across Italy for years, and no one in the ballroom knew which ones were true. Richard Romano forced a nervous smile and hurried forward. "Don Alessandro, welcome. It's an honor to have you in my home." Alessandro didn't answer. His steady gaze moved beyond Richard, beyond Victoria, beyond Ethan. He continued walking. Every polished shoe striking the marble floor echoed through the mansion. Ethan whispered, "Dad, why isn't he stopping?" Richard swallowed. I don't know." The guests stepped aside without being asked. A clear path formed through the center of the ballroom. Meanwhile, Sofia stood just inside the service hallway with Isabella. She had no idea why everyone had stopped talking. "Is something happening?" she asked softly. Before Isabella could answer, Alessandro appeared in front of them. For the first time that evening, the intimidating man smiled. It wasn't a smile of power. It was one of gratitude. "Sofia Bellini," she blinked. "I'm sorry. Have we met?" Alessandro nodded slowly. "You don't remember me." She searched his face. The tattoos, the beard, the older features. Nothing came to mind. "I'm afraid I don't." His voice became quieter. 21 years ago, during a storm outside Florence, a frightened young man collapsed outside a small church shelter. Sofia frowned. The memory stirred. "I volunteered there." "You did." "There was a young man who was badly injured." Alessandro smiled. "You cleaned the blood from my face." Sofia's eyes widened. "You?" "I never forgot." The ballroom watched in complete silence as Alessandro gently took Sofia's hand. Then, with genuine respect, he bowed his head and kissed it. Gasps swept through the crowd. Victoria covered her mouth. Richard looked as though he might faint. Ethan stood frozen. Alessandro turned toward the guests. "This woman changed my life." Nobody spoke. He continued. "When everyone else saw a dangerous stranger, she saw a wounded human being." Sofia finally remembered. "You were barely conscious. I was. You refused to tell me your name. I didn't trust anyone. You had a fever. You stayed beside me for 2 days. Sofia shook her head gently. I only did what anyone should have done. Alessandro looked around the room. No. His voice remained calm. Not everyone would have. He faced the guests. Some of you know pieces of my past. Many stories are true. Years ago, I made choices that filled my life with violence and regret. I cannot erase them. The room remained silent, but I can choose who I become now. He looked at Sofia again. She was the first person who showed me compassion without asking who I was or what I had done. Sofia smiled softly. I never asked, because everyone deserves a chance to become better. Alessandro nodded. I carried those words with me every day. He paused. They helped me leave that life behind. Several guests exchanged surprised glances. I spent years rebuilding my life honestly. I invest in businesses. I fund youth programs. I support shelters like the one where Sofia helped me. None of that would have happened if she had turned me away that night. Tears filled Sofia's eyes. I never imagined. You never expected anything in return. I didn't help you for a reward. I know. He turned slowly toward Ethan. May I ask you something? Ethan hesitated. Of course. When you mocked her tonight. His voice stayed controlled. What had she done to deserve it? Ethan couldn't answer. Alessandro continued. Did she insult you? No. Did she steal from you? No. Did she lie to you? No. Then why? Ethan lowered his head. I thought it was funny. Alessandro looked around the ballroom. Did anyone else think it was funny now? No one laughed. Not a single person. Alessandro addressed the crowd. It's amazing how quickly cruelty disappears when someone important is watching. Marco quietly wiped away tears from the back of the room. Isabella smiled through her own tears. Then everyone looked at Ethan. He stood completely still. For several long seconds he couldn't speak. Finally, he walked toward Sofia. His voice cracked. I don't expect you to forgive me. Sofia remained silent. I embarrassed you. He looked down. I made jokes about your body. Another pause. I treated you like you weren't a person. His eyes filled with tears. I'm ashamed of myself. Sofia studied his face. For the first time, she didn't see arrogance. She saw regret. She spoke gently. I accept your apology. Ethan looked surprised. But accepting it doesn't erase what happened. I know. I hope you remember tonight whenever you're tempted to make someone feel small. I will. I truly hope you do. Alessandro smiled. That's the woman I remembered. He reached into his jacket and handed Sofia a small envelope. She looked confused. What is this? A thank you. She opened it carefully. Inside was the deed to a beautiful countryside home near Florence. She immediately shook her head. I can't accept this. Please, it's too much. It isn't enough. I didn't help you for this. I know. You owe me nothing. I owe you the opportunity to say thank you. Sofia's eyes filled with tears again. Alessandro continued. The house is yours if you choose it. If you don't, I'll donate it to the shelter where we met. Sofia smiled. Then I'll accept it on one condition. He raised an eyebrow. What condition? We use it as a place where women escaping abuse or hardship can rebuild their lives. Alessandro smiled wider than anyone in the room had imagined possible. I was hoping you'd say something like that. The ballroom erupted into heartfelt applause. Not because anyone was afraid, because they had just witnessed genuine kindness. Richard turned toward the guests. Starting today, every employee in this household will be treated with the dignity they deserve. Marco laughed softly. I'll hold you to that. Richard nodded. You should. Victoria walked to Sofia. I have a great deal to learn. We all do, Sofia replied. Even Ethan managed a faint smile. As the evening came to an end,
Alessandro quietly prepared to leave. Before stepping outside, he looked back one last time.
People often ask me what changed my life. He looked at Sofia. It wasn't fear. It wasn't power. It wasn't money. It was one act of compassion from a woman everyone else overlooked. Sofia smiled. And kindness always costs less than cruelty. The guests applauded once more. This time, Sofia didn't lower her head. She stood tall, proud of exactly who she was. She was still the same very curvy, plus-size Italian woman who had walked into work that morning. The only difference was that everyone else had finally learned to see her worth. If Sofia's story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who believes kindness still matters. Leave a comment below and tell us, if you had been in that ballroom, would you have stood up for Sofia when no one else did? Sometimes one voice is all it takes to change someone's life, because in the end, people rarely remember who had the biggest house, the most expensive clothes, or the loudest voice. They remember who showed compassion when it mattered most, and that is a legacy worth leaving behind.